Welcome back to Crescendo. I'm your host, Rachel Lipchansky, and I'm so thrilled that you're here for today's conversation. In this episode, we're diving into a topic that impacts so many women: how to find balance, achieve health goals, and break free from the cycle of restrictive dieting while embracing the joys and traditions of life, especially within the unique rhythms of Jewish living. My guest today is Rena Rosenthal Cohen. She's a registered dietitian and behavior change coach and the founder of The Sanctuary. Rena brings nearly 2 decades of professional and personal experience helping women transform their health through her SELF program, which focuses on self-care, easy exercise, letting go, and food freedom. In our conversation today, we'll explore Rena's unique approach to health and weight loss, how she helps women thrive even with the challenges of Shabbat and Yom Tov meals, and her inspiring journey of starting her own business while finding her voice as an entrepreneur. Whether you're seeking hope for change, practical strategies to feel better in your body, or inspiration to pursue your own goals, this episode will leave you feeling empowered and uplifted. So let's get started. Rena, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Me too. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I would love for you to start by just sharing a little bit more about your business that I haven't talked about already, and telling people how you came into the work that you're doing today.
So absolutely. So, as you said, I've been a dietitian now for 20 years, which really goes by so fast. I have a degree in psychology from before my nutrition degree, before I became a dietitian. And over the years, what I became more and more noticing, it became way more apparent as I worked with more people, was that it's not just that people don't know what it is to do and how to eat healthy and the types of foods to eat. It's figuring out how to implement that into their lives in a way that doesn't seem so overwhelming and doesn't seem so restrictive and so drastic. And certain things that I noticed was people would be so much more likely to jump aboard like a really restrictive diet. Or, back in my day when I was growing up, there was the cabbage soup diet, the grapefruit diet, like eating something that's just so restrictive as a means to get to an end. And yes, it works in the short term in the sense that, okay, you're going to lose weight, but no way is that sustainable because that's not something you can do for the rest of your life. Yet people are a lot more willing to be able to go to extremes to be able to get a result. And this is what gets them stuck in that cycle of I'm either on the diet or I'm off the diet. And it's this that perpetuates not only the metabolic damage, but this that perpetuates the thinking in our heads and the beliefs in our head that, oh, I can't lose weight. It's just not possible for me. It's not going to happen for me. So over the years, as I realized this more and more, people would ask me, just give me a meal plan, tell me what to eat, and I'll follow it. And at first I did. I gave people meal plans, and when I'd see them week after week, they'd be like, oh yeah, I wasn't able to do that because we had a wedding and we had an engagement party, and then it was Shabbos, and then it was a holiday meal. And so no one's life is able to be so rigid and so structured to follow a meal plan. And so as I developed and built my experience over the years, I realized that people need so much more than just a meal plan. People need so much more than just a diet. What we need to do is focus on the roots of these behaviors, the beliefs and the thoughts and the stories that we often tell ourselves in our head as to why we can't do that or I can't do that. And some of these are happening at a very subconscious level. We don't realize a lot of the conditioning we've had around food coming from our parents, our grandparents, friends, society, whatever it is out there have conditioned us to behave in a certain way. And that has such a strong impact on our food choices and our behaviors around food. And so diets deal with the very superficial level, eat this, not that, which is a very rational approach. In order to get and create sustainable health and behavior and weight loss change, you have to get to the root of the issue, which is really diving into the beliefs and the understandings and the stories around food and around why we eat certain things. So that is how my program has evolved in the last, I've done this sort of on and off over the last 20 years. I've also spent some time working in a hospital. And over the last 5 years, just before COVID, is when I was like, this is what I want to do as my private practice and really empower people, both in terms of the things that I realize about my own personal life, which we can get into in a bit as well, and sharing that with others, because that's the biggest piece that people are missing. And they're looking for something that they honestly don't know what it is that they're looking for. And once we find it and we work on it together, I can honestly say my life has been changed forever. And so many of the clients that I work with have shifted their mindset, shifted their beliefs, and shifted their thought processes around themselves, around food, around choosing certain foods, and around eating, and around the pleasure of eating, and around even things like prioritizing themselves. That's part of my self system, because without that piece and without putting yourself first and letting yourself know that like you deserve to look and feel your best, 100% you're going to struggle on a diet because it's only going to be short-lived. And so the program is very much structured around not only me guiding people, here's what you need to eat, and we go through all of that, all the evidence-based nutrition stuff, and we talk about macronutrients and all the fun stuff that I love and love to talk about, but also really focusing on how we can implement that seamlessly into your life without seeming overwhelming, so that you now have a new path, a new understanding of yourself, an understanding of food, an understanding of the types of foods, including traditions, including holidays, including Shabbos, and how this can align with your life going forward.
Yeah, it's such an interesting niche that you have in working with Jewish women because we have this, and I think that this is probably true in many cultures, that we have this strong emphasis around gathering with food. Do we ever get together with people without a meal? I'm not sure we do.
I don't think we do. And even seeing, I do also work like in the hospital where I'm one of the only Jewish people there. And it's like when it comes time to Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's like the overwhelm and it's just, oh my gosh, Christmas dinner. I'm having 15 people for Christmas dinner. And then I'm having all these people. And when I try to explain to them, this is our Shabbos every single week. And Yantif this year, that was 3 days in a row. They were like, how many meals are you cooking for? I'm like, yeah, there's literally 18 meals. And then again next week. And it's just, that is very unique to our culture for sure. But it's just like something that we've just become, okay, that's just our norm. And it's something that we've gotten used to, but it is very different and it can be very stressful. And also just that balance between like, okay, I want to be social and I want to eat. And something that I'm very strongly believe in is that like women, all of us should be able to eat the same meals as the rest of our families and feel comfortable in going to a Shabbos meal and being able to partake in the celebrations and taking food on your plate. And I remember once I spoke to one woman when she was first starting, she's like, my biggest fear, I feel so overwhelmed at someone else's Shabbos table. And my husband's aware. And in order to help me feel more comfortable and me feel safer, he overcompensates because I don't know what to put on my plate. And I feel like once I start, I go overboard. So I end up eating very little, but then I feel bad for my host because I'm not being a good guest. So my husband has gotten into this habit and we like mutually agreed this is what's going to be. He'll double up on the portions on his plate to make up for what I'm eating. And only once I'm like, how does that experience make you feel? And she's really not good. And so those are the types of things that like we may not even realize that we're doing, but it's like very large part of our social gatherings and our kind of cultural bonds does revolve around food. So it's important to feel like you can enjoy that and not dread those occasions because they happen so frequently.
Yeah, I'm curious too about how you marry the mindset and the mechanics, which are like terms that I use in my business with my clients as well, right? There's all the mind drama that you're talking about, and then there are the mechanics, right? The science that you were just speaking about in business. It's the tools, the strategies, the processes, right? It's like the actionable, practical stuff. And a lot of times people discount the mindset. They're like, no, I just need the tools, right? I just need this, I just need that. And if you give them the science, are they able to make a transformation without the mindset? And or on the other side of things, how do you get people on board with the idea that mindset is actually carrying so much of or driving so much of the burden that they feel around their health?
I love that question. And to be honest, I was that person. Like I was like, oh, I don't need all the other airy fairy stuff, the woo stuff. I don't need that. Just tell me what to do and I will do it. And with everything, like even in school, I was just like, let's focus on the end result. Let's focus on getting to just the result. Forget the journey. Let's just focus on the result. And I was the same when I started my business. Let me just get the business going. And I had done over the years, I've done a lot of personal development on myself to be able to get me to the place where I am now and to feel comfortable with certain things. Even speaking on camera was not something I ever did. And it was, I'm very good at the do and get the stuff done. And so part of that is what I bring into helping others because I'm very aware that's what was holding me back in the thing. I think just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that only works until a point. So what I've done very successfully is been able to combine the two. So I've created a system which focus on what you call the mechanics. So a system that focuses on the action. So I outline very clearly, very definedly, here are your tasks for this week. So just as an example, like we focus only on breakfast in the first week. So that's the mechanics piece. Here's what you need to do. And then in terms of getting there without feeling overwhelming and making people realize that what is in the journey, it is in the process, it is in the understanding, is that I break it down into very simple, actionable tasks that we focus on every week. So there's 2 to 3 things that we focus on every week. And it's, you only need to do these 2 to 3 things. And there's people who are like the past version of me who are like, give me it all. I want it all. I want to do it all. I want to be perfect. I want to get everything. And I'm like, no, we're going to slow it down because we're doing things differently this time. And so by focusing on simple, actionable habits that are very unique to that person and very doable, not only in the beginning of the program, is that person's confidence being built. Oh, wow, I can actually do this. And if it's someone who, for example, has never been to the gym before, you know what? We don't even have to go to the gym. It's just, let's get in a 20-minute walk. It's really starting from like ground zero and building the habit so that we can circumvent the sense of self and the ego that we've all built up over the years that is going to pull you back to your old ways. And so this is not stuff that I tell people when we're working together, but it's through the work that we do. And then we do some kind of reflective exercises each week, which again, some people say, I don't need those. I'm going to just forgo those. But that is a really important part of the process because we want to reflect upon how we got to this place where we are now. Why do we feel this way about ourselves? Why do we feel this way about food? And things that come up. I mean, I have women who tell me, I never realized it, but like their parents, I work with some women who may be in their 60s and their parents were Holocaust survivors, and they were very much conditioned to not leave the table until they finish everything on their plate. And they never realized how much that was impacting the volume of food that they were eating at a meal. So yes, I can tell them, eat this at the meal, eat that at the meal, but their sense of self that's been conditioned over the last 50, 60 years is going to keep pulling them back to these habits that have been created for themselves over the course of time. So we have to, again, get to, and through our conversations, through our interactions, and through me working with the clients, are they not only able to say, okay, here's what Rena wants me to implement, which is very simple, as basic as possible, but then figuring out, okay, if it's, what are some of the struggles? What are some of the barriers? What are some of the blocks in your way that are preventing you from being able to implement it? People tell me, I don't like breakfast. I can never eat breakfast. Okay, so that is a statement, that's a story, that's a belief, and we explore. And no matter how many times I tell that person, but you must eat breakfast, they may do it begrudgingly for the first little bit, but until we realize what is the factor or the barrier that's making them resist breakfast, eventually they're going to get pulled back to that old way, no matter, probably once I'm done with them every single week. And that's not what I want, because a lot of these women have done that already. They follow the rules, they follow the diet rules for a short period of time, and then they wonder, but why am I getting pulled back to the old ways of doing things? And it's because we don't have the mindset piece. So I do remind the people that I work with very often, we're doing things differently this time. And asking the questions from my end is what's really eye-opening for a lot of people. And they tell me, oh my gosh. And I can almost see it when I'm talking to them, like that little light bulb moment, be like, oh my gosh, I never realized that before. And so those are the key elements to change. And once they have that, there's much more able to implement my structure, my system of what I want them to do and what they need to do to elicit change and to be able to lose weight. And it happens with so much less effort and so much less resistance. So it's really the marriage and the combination of those two that has been so effective, and that what I am really so proud of, because I think it's so unique, and it's a very sustainable and a very effective approach to long-term health, long-term weight loss, and just really bringing out the best version of yourself and how you want to show up in the world and how you want to feel over the next 30, 40 years. Again, women tell me like, oh, well, my mother is 85 years old and she's still trying to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, but you don't want to live the next 40, 50 years of your life always struggling with those last 10 pounds. There's so much more that life has to offer. And we don't realize how much of our headspace and how much noise eating and the food choices create in our brain until we're on the other side, until we really truly understand what our body needs, how we want to structure our meals, how we want to feel around food. Do you then recognize, oh, wow, like I'm so glad I got out of that cycle, because it really wasn't leaving me feeling very well.
Mm-hmm. There's so many things coming up for me as you're talking. I mean, first of all, we live in a society that treasures quick wins. And the idea that we have to go through the rewiring process and we have to create new habits and we have to start with baby steps, whether we're talking about health coaching or we're talking about building a business, that's just the way to do it if you want to build something that's sustainable. Again, whether it's healthy habits or a successful, sustainable business. But we're always combating, I think, people like you and me who are merging the mindset and the mechanics. But we're combating that desire in people to just do this really quickly. I want to ask you about the hottest topic in weight loss and health, which is Ozempic and these other drugs that are on the market and are offering people, quite frankly, pretty quick wins without the sustainable process backing it up. What are your thoughts? What should people be thinking about this? And tell us all the things.
What a hot topic. This is a good one. And I feel very passionate about this, especially as a practitioner in terms of the medical field and the clinical field, and really recognizing there is a place for these meds for certain people. And I would never discredit that. Like, they're there for a reason, and certain people will get tremendous value and benefit from these. But on the other side, the increase in the amount of people who don't necessarily need these they don't qualify for these sorts of meds. And it's a little bit less in Canada just because of our medical system. But in the US, the amount of people that now have access to these meds really is a quick way to be able to lose weight. And they haven't been around that long for us to know the long-term impacts. But even from my own experience, seeing people anecdotally on these medications, they will their effectiveness, and they have this like multi-level effectiveness based on, they work on so many different, like the appetite control center of the brain, they work on hormone regulation, they work on insulin regulation, they have a lot of different methods of action, which I'm not, no need to get into. And so they are going to be effective. You take the medication and you will be able to lose weight. And when your body adjusts to that dose, you increase the dose, and then you will continue to lose weight. And for people who have struggled with their weight their entire life, it's like, they finally won the jackpot. Because as someone once told me, I don't feel hungry all day. And you know what? When I do feel hungry, maybe I'll have a couple of bites of cake and then I'm done. And the next day the scale is down. So this is like win for them. The sad part is, and it's a couple things that kind of do leave me feeling sad because I've seen it happen to people, is that these medications, like you said, they don't offer any kind of exit strategy. So what's going to be after you lose the weight? How are you going to keep that weight off? Because not only are these medications not a long-term solution, your body will adapt to the dose eventually. You can't keep going up and up. So then what happens? You get to the highest dose, that one doesn't work. You switch to another medication, which has a multi-level course of mechanism of action. It's a little bit different. So then that one starts working. But again, your body is very smart and your body will adapt to that one as well. So the frustrating piece is that these people end up losing weight, and a small percentage of them will be able to keep it off, a very small percentage, but the majority of them will then gain the weight back, which is almost more frustrating because you get that glimmer of hope and you really start to see how you can look and how you can feel, and you're really building back your confidence because you look differently and your body feels different and you feel like you're in a much better place. And then again, the hopelessness and the helplessness kicks back in because you're like, but I can't do this anymore. Like the weight keeps coming back on. So for women especially, I have seen a lot of success in men. And again, that's that men are a different being than women, especially in women my age. I'm 44, kind of in my age range and above. The biggest risk factor for kind of long-term health is not having enough muscle mass. And so what happens on these medications is that when you're not eating enough, especially not enough protein, and from what I've heard, these medications actually give you a bit of an aversion to protein. So it's almost like you don't want to eat the thing that your body needs to eat. But then what happens when your body's not getting enough protein? It is going to turn to its own muscle stores to lose. So yes, the scale is coming down, but you're not necessarily targeting fat loss. And so in my program, I differentiate between fat loss and just overall getting the scale down. If people don't eat for X many days, the number on the scale will come down. Where that body weight is coming from isn't necessarily going to be fat loss. It's going to be some just body water. It's going to be some carbohydrate, some stored carbohydrates. And unfortunately, it's going to be muscle mass loss. So my biggest fear with these medications, especially for women, especially for the perimenopausal women, is that the combination of these medications, the very rapid weight loss and the very likely muscle mass loss, and then combine that with the hormonal changes that happen naturally around this time, they're setting these women up for a very risky situation later on down the line when they have very low muscle mass, which then impacts their bone health. And kind of, this is again, me being further on down the line. In the moment, it's great. My scale's coming down and I'm losing weight and I'm feeling amazing. But how is that for a long-term sustainable approach when you're breaking bones, when you're in your 60s and 70s, because you don't have the muscle mass to add resistance to your bone health, and you're not eating not only a macronutrient, but you're like deficient in vitamins and minerals, which are so important, especially for women's health. So those are like the things that I often, battle. And I have worked with a handful of people, and with my help in understanding, okay, we're going to use this drug as a kickstart. So let's get some weight off. But if we do it in a way that at the same time, you're seeing the number come down, we can then, by working on the right habits and the right action changes, we can make sure that we're targeting fat and not muscle. And we can make sure that we're working on the behavior change piece at the same time. That is the only way that I would endorse these medications, because it's then you can, let's use it as a little bit of a kickstart and as a crutch at the beginning. And then once we get the system down pat and we understand how we need to eat in our bodies in a different place, we have that exit strategy for long term. And so that for me is like the biggest piece is long-term health, sustainable weight loss, long-term longevity, not just that fighting with the number on the scale day in and day out, because ultimately that's not what matters. At the end of 120, when people are talking about your life, are they going to be like, and she weighed 125 pounds. We are so proud of her. No.
I don't think I've ever seen that in an obit.
No, but the amount of like pressure that women put on themselves to be a certain number, it's like it takes away from so much other enjoyment in their life. And that's part of what I really try to bring back to people. Like the number on the scale does not define you. Like you're defined by how you carry yourself and how you feel and the energy you bring to the people around you and how you're able to create your home for your family. Like that's what's going to matter in the end. And so I do try to shift that focus a little bit, because women, I don't think it's just Jewish women in general, are so focused on a number on a scale and getting to that number no matter what it takes. And it takes away from so many other things. And that's, again, my fear with these quick fix injections, these quick fix drugs that are going to work, but it's not the long-term end result that is really going to be in our best interest.
Yeah, I appreciate this so much. And I want to bring it back to business. But this is what I talk about all the time in terms of business foundations, right? Because if you don't have the foundation for sustainability there, I know we went off on a little bit of a tangent in Ozempic train there, because I was so curious as to what your belief is around what your philosophy would be around all these drugs that are being introduced on the market. And it really just illustrates the same thing that we're dealing with in business. I want to ask you a little bit more about your business journey. You developed a self system that you use with your clients. Tell us how your business changed from before you had that signature system that you used with your clients to afterwards when you had designed it and really identified what the system was that was going to contribute to the greatest transformation for your clients.
It's a really good question as well. So again, like the number one, first and foremost, since the system, the results have been even more incredible. So it's like that just reinforced my belief that, you know what, it's not just about the mechanics. It's not just about doing the things and getting the work done and doing that without really focusing on yourself. So the results have been even increased exponentially since really adding that system in and being able to help people implement that system. And again, just as you said, like any business, any behavior, any lifestyle, anything that we do for ourselves, it's not just in the actions and the day-to-day stuff. It is in the foundation or the roots of what is holding that structure or that system up. And that includes ourselves. So it's not just every day we do this and we eat this for breakfast and we do this and we do this. It's not so much in the actions and our to-do list. It's in the deeper rooting feelings and the appreciation of ourselves and what it is that we want for ourselves that needs to be brought out, because that is what anchors everything else. And so until like I was able to realize that from working with, as I started working with people, and I didn't necessarily realize that we needed some of the deeper rooted stuff. I'll tell people what to eat, I'll give them a meal plan, and they'll be like me, who's like are very type A, very much, okay, follow the rules and here's what I need to do. But not everyone's like that. And I started to realize that some people don't need an actual rigid system, and that actually makes them feel less inclined to do the work. And so as I started to realize and I'd ask myself, what is it that these women need? What is it? What is it that's going to create the biggest change? And it came down to really bringing things down to a much simpler level. And really the biggest thing that I noticed, especially among the Jewish women that I was working with, was the identity of self, the prioritizing of yourself. And so that's why S is first. Like without self-care, which is more than just going for your nails and going for manicures. It is so much more than that. But without that anchor and that piece of self-care and recognizing that you deserve and you need to prioritize yourself, almost nothing else matters, because the other things you're not going to be able to implement. So if, for example, something that comes up really commonly among the women that I work with is, oh, well, I make sure everyone else has the food that they need. And I cook meals and I cook 3 meals for my kids. And my husband comes home to a nice dinner. And if there's nothing left for me to eat, it's fine. It's fine, because everyone else is eating their food, and maybe I'll eat whatever my kids leave over on their plate, and it doesn't matter. It's fine. And so until I help them realize that that's not fine, if you're not going to be able to recognize that you deserve to eat nutritionally balanced meals, and you deserve to create meals for yourself, and you deserve to really prioritize your own nutritional needs, there is no way you're going to be able to eat the meals that I'm suggesting that you're going to eat, because the anchor and the root and the foundation of that behavior is not in place and it's not solid enough. And so implementing the system and helping people realize what is it they actually need. You don't need those like 6 days at the gym, working like crazy, like really running yourself so thin and not giving yourself the rest and recovery. And I only know that because I was that person who was in that same situation. Your body actually needs to slow down, and your body actually needs to do less, and let's do less exercise, and let's focus on rest and recovery, and let's focus on your body, allowing your body to do and get to that place where it feels the most relaxed and it feels the most at ease. And when you're constantly go and do, your body is not able to get to that place. And so something else that, like, again, like the letting go piece that I've noticed amongst, especially I think Jewish women, a very strongly connected cultural women, is this belief that if we're not doing everything for everybody and we're not like spreading ourselves so thin, we're not good enough, and we're not doing enough. And something that I've noticed even in my community at shul, when you're talking to people and it's like, oh, how's your week been? Oh my God, it's been so busy. Like, it's been so busy. I've been doing this and the kids are so busy. And then the next person's, oh my God, wait till you hear about my week. My week's been even busier. And it's this like one-upping in terms of the busiest person is going to get a reward, or there's going to be an award out there for the busiest person. And it's taken me to realize that it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm only able to say that because I've come out the other side. I was working 60, 70 hours a week between working in the hospital, working at home, running my own business. And I was spreading myself so thin and running myself so exhausted all the time. And I truly believed that was the way my life had to be in order for me to be successful. And letting go of some of those beliefs that so many of us have, that we have to be working ourselves so hard and there's no time to rest, there's no time for fun, and everything has to be so serious and so focused, and you're driving the kids here and running the kids here. Your brain and your body does not have a chance to slow down. And so not only is that not good for you mentally, but when it comes to weight loss, when your body is in that state, it is not going to let go of the weight because it is so much stuck in this go, what's called the fight or flight sense. It's like your body feels like it needs to always be ready for an attack. And our brains are so primitive that way, in the sense that, like, it doesn't know that your work deadlines and the kids' appointments and the running to here and the cooking for Shabbos and the running doesn't know how to differentiate that from there may be a bear in our vicinity that's going to come run after us and attack us. And so your brain prepares in the same way because it's still stuck in that kind of like primitive, we need to survive. And this is a huge part of how I help women realize, in order to get effective and sustainable fat loss and sustainable weight loss, we have to look at all the things that you're doing and really question, like, maybe it's too much. Which of those can we let go of? Which of those can we do less of? Which of those can we relinquish some of that control to somebody else, whoever that other person is, a family member, your husband, whoever it is. But to really analyze, and let's look at the things that we do and look at the things that we think we need to do and figure out, like, is this how you want to show up for your kids? Because this is how I call the generational trauma gets passed along, because we grew up watching our parents do a certain thing. And so in order to break that pattern, it starts with us. It starts with you. It starts with identifying, I no longer want to be living on this like very fine line of I'm going to crack at any moment, and not wanting to pass it on to my kids. And so that's a huge part of not just healthy living, but also weight loss. And so that then leads into the food freedom. So the self system that I've created really encompasses so much of the foundational work that you're mentioning that is important to be in place, after which we can then build forward and then be able to really show people, which I have, and show women how once you have those fundamentals and those foundational beliefs really deeply rooted and very solid, it becomes a lot easier, maybe not easier, a lot simpler and a lot less effort to be able to implement and do the things that you want to do for yourself, especially.
Yeah, I love this. And of course, I'm always thinking about business and how these lessons apply to business. And one of the things that you said essentially was, what's going to create the greatest change for my clients? And so if you're listening to this and you're a freelancer or a small business owner, I want you to think about, what is going to create the greatest change for my clients? It's such a good question. And I think a lot of times we just, especially earlier in our businesses, we start doing the thing, right? You just start sharing your expertise, and really you're able to refine the system and identify where your unique sweet spot is and where you can not only shine, but help your clients create that greatest transformation. And that's when you start creating your own signature programs, as I'm calling them here. The other thing you talked about, which I think is so valuable for business owners, is who you are and who you want to be. I actually did an entire podcast on this, and I can link it in the show notes. But, no matter what our goals are, whether they're health goals, whether our goal is to climb Mount Kilimanjaro or to grow our business, it doesn't just take doing the thing, right? If we're going to hike Kilimanjaro, we're not just going to go out and go on hikes all the time. We probably have to also look at, what are we eating? How much rest are we getting? How are we nourishing ourselves in so many different ways? And the same is true in business. Who we are, in order to be the best clinician or provider in whatever our services that we're providing, we really have to focus on the holistic sense of who we are, right? It's not just, well, who are we in business, but how are we taking care of ourselves? How are we really ensuring that we have the greatest level of energy and creativity and clear minds and so forth to be able to show up as our best self? So there's so many ties here. I'd love to know, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've experienced in growing your business?
I'd have to say that it's been a very humbling experience, for sure. Again, as somebody, and just to piggyback on what you mentioned before also, is that I was the same as we all want this big end result. And so we want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. We want to have this huge business, this huge successful business. But we tend to assume that we can just jump from here to there without doing kind of all the little work along the way. And so that was a huge block for me, thinking like, I can do this and I can do this perfectly and I'm going to build a business. And I didn't backpedal enough at the beginning and realizing there's a lot of little steps that take for you to get to the top of that mountain. It's not just one
Well,
day
and
I'm
I
going to
think
wake up.
Yeah, and I think social media doesn't make this any easier, right? Because you see people who are on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. You see people who are 120 pounds after they've had 5 babies. You see women who have these really successful businesses, and some of them are out there touting their treasures that they're able to buy and their experiences that they're able to have now that they have a business. But you don't get to see the journey, right?
Yeah.
You just get to see that end result. And so it even takes that much more intentionality to remind ourselves of, not even remind ourselves, but it just takes so much more intentionality to pause and remember that, and to see the people who are in front of us on our screens and in our feeds, and to think about what they went through to get to where they are today. It wasn't just
100%.
the snap of the fingers or the flip of a switch.
Yes. And I think it is. I mean, for me, like one of the biggest challenges for me is to remind myself of enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. It's not just the end result. And here it's, you want, I mean, whether it's a business, whether it's weight loss, it's like you want to all of a sudden just assume that like my business is going to be a 6-figure business right away, starting from zero to there. And then it's, you know what, it's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of baby steps and it's going to take a lot of work. And knowing that, okay, it's also about stop just trying to race ahead to get to the end, because at the end there's going to be another door and there's going to be another opportunity and something else is going to open. If you're never enjoying the process and never enjoying the journey, it's also like you're never going to be happy. And that was a huge awakening for me, thinking like, okay, so once I get this, once I make this much money per month or per year, then I'm going to be happy. But no, then you want to push it and go to the next. And again, weight loss is the same. Women tell me all the time, once I get to 140 pounds, then I'm going to be happy. And then no, they get there and, you know what, let's push it another 5 or 10 pounds, because if you never have a defined end goal, and if you're never again enjoying the process and happy with yourself and within yourself who you are, you're never going to be happy. And that was something that was a huge learning process for me, thinking like, okay, once I get to the end goal, I'm going to be happy. And there is no end goal. Like it's continually working on yourself, it's continually working on your business, it's continually like taking on new opportunities, going into areas that are scary. Like the only way to create effective change is to face that fear head on, and then to be able to come out on the other side. And for me, like I've said, even recording myself was like very scary. And I still remember that first time when I was hitting record and recording my first video, and I was like, my hands were sweaty and I was shaking. And it's you can tell yourself, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do this. And then just continue to stay in your comfortable zone and continue to stay in your safe zone. But if you really want to be able to see the true change and be able to feel on the other side of that change, it does take going through those uncomfortable phases, those uncomfortable things, and putting yourself through that discomfort and really feeling it in your body. Like it doesn't feel nice to do something that you don't feel comfortable with. But if you only stay in your comfort zone, you're never going to be able to feel that feeling on the other side. And something that I keep telling myself is that it's never as bad as you think. Like we build up in our head, like doing something is going to be, oh my God, it's going to be awful. It's going to be so scary. It's going to be so bad. One of my kids hates going to school, and every day it's, do I have to go to school? Do I have to go to school? I hate going to school. I hate going to school. At the end of the day, it's never as bad as he thinks. But what if this happens? And then, you know, the teacher gives us a new test and there's going to be this, and my friends don't want to play with me. Like there's the stories that we create will very easily and very naturally prevent us from doing those scary things. And it's through literally jumping into those scary things, can you then be like, you know what, like I can do these things and really feel very proud. And that's part of the humbling experience for me as a business owner, is putting myself outside of my comfort zone, doing things, asking questions that are uncomfortable, speaking to people about things that they may feel awkward about, and me trying to, I want them to feel comfortable, but at the same time, I want them to feel that little bit level of discomfort, because that's the only way we can create change and move past that discomfort. So it hasn't been an easy journey, but I'm reminding myself of the journey. Enjoy the journey, because there is no endpoint, and it's not about just reaching the endpoint. It's about all the stuff, all the little steps along the way, like you said, to be able to get to that top of the mountain. Make sure your nutrition is in place. Make sure you're training properly. Make sure you have the stamina. Make sure you have the support. All of those things are in place, and then you'll be able to get to that top of the mountain, which a lot less effort and a lot less struggle.
Yeah, I love thinking about how business is as much a journey of personal development as it is a business journey, business building journey, and who we become and how much we learn and grow and change and evolve through the process, I think is really where the magic happens. And I can't imagine skipping over all of that, because I feel like it's been the process that has helped me step into the person that I am today, right? So it's not just about stepping into the business owner that you are, but it's also just about becoming your best self, right? And this show is all about amplifying the voices of women. And I think women don't feel safe having their voices heard until they feel that inner peace and that inner confidence and safety. And so what you're saying just speaks to my heart and soul so
Yeah.
much.
And that inner confidence takes a lot of work. It's not just like you wake up one day and be like, okay,
Absolutely.
now I feel like, I think also, I mean, a sad piece, and I can include myself in this, is that so many women don't truly know who they are and what they want in this world, what they want to achieve in this world. And that's been apart from us doing so many things and wearing so many hats and taking care of so many people, and our own beliefs or our own sense of self just does get buried. And it's about bringing that out. And I, again, also did things because that was what was expected of me over the years, based on my family, based on the people around me. But like the creation of that version of me was not necessarily the true version of me. That was what was created. And letting myself open up and vulnerable to create a different version of me, and a version that is probably closer to my true self, because it feels so much more natural and so much more comfortable, really takes a lot of work. And that's the fear that I think a lot of people are scared to go there, because they also don't know where to start. How do I start figuring out what I want to be? How do I start figuring out who I want to be? And so one of the things that I start on almost right away with people in my program is, let's envision sort of the future you. We write about it, we talk about it. How do you want to look? How do you want to feel in 18 months from now? And really getting into what clothes do you wear? What car do you drive? How do you go about your day? Getting into sort of, let's start envisioning the place you want to get to, so that we can then backpedal. Okay, so then what are the steps we need to take to really help you get to be that person? How does that person show up? How does that person act? How does that person wake up in the morning? How does that person talk to her kids? And that's how you can start to bring out that version of you, of how you want to feel, how you want to look, and how you want to be, so that you can gain that confidence and that inner strength to be able to carry that through all other areas of your life.
Beautiful. I was going to ask you, what is one first step that somebody can take? And so that's a really great suggestion, to really envision future you, journal on it, sit in your favorite spot, grab your favorite pen, get comfy and cozy, and really let yourself imagine and dream, and then reverse engineer the process. And of course, working with somebody like you, if it's a health journey, or me, if it's a business building journey, I mean, it makes such a difference. What's next for you in the sanctuary? What do you have coming up? Are you working on any big projects?
I mean, I'd love to do more of this kind of stuff. I'm really loving to do podcasting, perhaps my own podcast one at some point. I like to be able to write some stuff, just maybe a small book, or like just about my experiences. And really, my goal and my vision is to empower as many women as possible and get the message out, get this word out that you can and you have the potential. There's so many women who are just in despair, hopeless, hopeless. I can't do anything to change my life. And I've tried everything, and I can't look and feel better. And I don't know what to do, and really feeling so helpless. And so I want to get this message out to as many women as possible, that there is hope. You can change the way you not only look, the way you feel. And I can speak to that again from my own personal experience, and how much I have changed over the years and grown and changed my perspective on things, and really empowering as many people as possible and reaching as many people as possible to spread that message. And that to me is what's so, so important, to really get people to that place, feeling that they're in like their best space possible. And it's now, like, it's not when my kids get older, I'll start taking care of myself, or when I retire, I'll start taking care of myself. No, like it has to start now. And so even if you can do one or two small things for yourself, or one or two small things, who cares how long it takes you to get there? There's no end point. It doesn't matter when you get there. It's just that the process start now. Like, how much longer do you want to go on feeling the way that you do, and feeling so awful about how you look and how you feel? It's, let's take control and change things. And that is a message that I'm really dedicated and hoping to get out to as many women out there as possible. You can run any business you want. It's possible. Anything you want for yourself is possible, and don't let no get in your way.
Absolutely. Such good advice. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here. You're such an inspiration, really. And I appreciate like the cheer you bring, and that sense of confidence in women. And I believe that too so deeply, that it's really within our power to create the reality that we want to be living. And it's not easy, but it's simple. And if any of you need support from Rena, I will, of course, link her profiles and website and everything below. And without further ado, thank you so much, Rena, for being here. I appreciate you sharing your voice, your insights, your wisdom. And to all of our listeners, keep sharing your voice.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.